If you've ever wondered whether God can redeem a story as shattered as yours, today's conversation is for you. After everything Mike has survived and everything he ran from, he didn't just find recovery, he found a relationship with Jesus that completely reshaped his identity, his purpose, and the way that he walks through the world. And today, he's here to share his journey with us. Welcome to Unmasked, where we take off the filters and get real about faith, failure, and finding freedom. I'm your host, Wesley Farnsworth, a dad, veteran, author, and a man who's learned that God does his best work in the middle of our mess. Each episode will have honest conversations with people who've walked through addiction, pain, or doubt, and with pastors, leaders, and everyday believers who are learning to live and lead authentically. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and let's get real. This is Unmasked. Today on Unmasked, I'm joined by Mike, who has lived through more than most of us could imagine. Yet what stands out most today is not the weight of his past, but the depth of his transformation. Raised in small-town Iowa with early roots in the church, his life took him through addiction, broken relationships, incarceration, and seasons where faith felt distant and mechanical. But through the steady pursuit of Jesus and community he discovered in Celebrate Recovery, Mike experienced a renewal that moved his faith from something he knew in his head to something that he lives from in his heart. Today, he walks with intentional joy and passion for prayer and a desire to help others find the same freedom that he's found. So today, Unmasked, he's here to share his incredible story of transformation. Mike, thank you so much for being with us on Unmasked.
Thank you for having me. This is my first podcast ever. I'm Mike, a grateful believer in Jesus, and I am from, like you said, small town Iowa, population 400, including cats and dogs, because they're family too. And I don't know, I grew up in the church. I grew up with God centered in my whole relationship. Like every relationship I had was based on the church. My mom was the youth group leader. My grandpa was the music leader, worship leader, I guess you would call him. My grandma taught Sunday school, and she taught adult Sunday school and did Bible studies, and there was morning devotionals and everything like that. And yeah, I grew up in the church. I loved it. It was my identity. And even when my mom, even after her divorce, when she kind of fell off, I was still going. I mean, 3 days a week, we were there for sure. And anytime the doors were open, pretty much. I guess my childhood starts off like any other childhood. I had a single mom, but we lived right next door to my grandparents and had a great relationship with all of them. I mean, they all taught me right. I'm the one that went and did wrong, and as I was getting older, I had quite a few concussions, stuff like that, car accidents. I jumped off the back of a tractor, split my head open. 30 days after that, I had a stroke, ended up in Iowa City. It messed me up for a while. But yeah, my mom had gotten married, and so I was so ingrained in the church. I was part of this band called Good News Singers. And it wasn't a band. It was a youth choir. And my stepdad he didn't have a lot of faith in anything but alcohol and drugs. And anyway, when it all went bad, he had gotten really angry with me, and he had sent me to my room. And I think I was 10, 11 years old. And I went in there and I cranked up us singing. We had tapes that were made because our church recorded every service. So I cranked up the tapes of us singing honestly, just to annoy him. It made me feel better though. And then that's the day it all went to crap. My mom, who was pregnant at the time, that day she got beat into a miscarriage, and it was rough. I got sent to my grandparents' house, but I could see through the window, into our, like I said, we were neighbors, and I watched a lot of crazy things go down, guns drawn, stuff like that. And then I remember he had gotten angry about everything all the time. And it was about a week later, I got called at school, and they pulled me out of school and told me to walk straight to my grandparents' house. And I'm like, okay. So I walked straight to my grandparents' house, and I walked in there, and all his guns were on the bed, and they had the windows closed and the doors locked, and they're like, things are going down today. And then that's when my dare officer, ironically, was one of the officers that came and arrested my stepdad after work. But I was just angry all the time. Then a few more concussions later, freshman year, it was my last major concussion. I was in a car accident. I was riding with my girlfriend home. We had she was giving me a ride because we had gotten our pizza sales and I had all my stuff. So she's like, "You ain't got to ride the bus. I'll give you a ride." And we ended up in a head-on car accident. It pretty well crushed my right side. And so I was out of school for a while, broken ribs, broken leg, this big scar that goes, I don't know if you can see it, but this big scar that goes through here, that's where my head went through the windshield and broke it. And I was 14 at the time, but I got put on a lot of painkillers and stuff like that, and pills that they said I'd have to take for life, which I don't have to take anymore. That's definitely a God move right there. But anyway, yeah. So the further I got into high school, the further the devil and spiritual warfare really attacked me because I remember the day that I accepted Christ was November 7th, 1992. And it was a Frank Gonzalez, this trumpet evangelist that came to our church. And I went and I prayed and I came out. My mom was like, "How do you feel?" And I was like a weight has been lifted, you know? And it was just, I don't know. I can't describe that feeling. When you accepted Christ, you know the feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no feeling that compares to it. Even though we'll go a little later in the story, and I tried many ways to get that same feeling and didn't. But anyway, I kept going up. High school, I couldn't play sports anymore, so I was still angry, and I wasn't blaming God, but I didn't know the path. And then I got the first drug I ever did was I had found some tobacco and it was laced with black tar heroin. So I skipped all the gateway drugs and went straight into it. And that feeling that I had back in 1992, like I had like a glimpse of it, like as I seen a lot of hypocrisy in the church, and I seen things that didn't make me feel good about things, like profess to be one thing and then it's to the total opposite. Or when somebody messes up, they're cast out, like I've seen the church be the first one to shoot their wounded, and it just didn't sit right with me. And then because I was into drugs, I happened to be in a situation where I watched a guy, a drug addict, literally had nothing. This girl was about to leave a house and he took his coat off and gave her his coat. And like that's what Jesus said, I had all this Bible knowledge, all this head knowledge. Like that's when I was cold, you clothed me. When I was in jail, you visited me. When I was hungry, you fed me. And I just saw this in the drug world. And looking back now, I see the spiritual warfare of it. Like seeing what I had read, all that head knowledge that had to hit my heart, seeing what I had read about in the Bible and what Sunday school and the wonderful Sunday school classes I had as a teenager with Herb Meyer, God rest his soul, that man, he made me do some growing before I was ready for it spiritually. And we've had some debates, some great conversations. Like that man did a lot for my spiritual walk. But anyway, yeah, push come to shove, I seen that, and then I was off to the races, and I got super involved with it, so much so that when something was going down, I was 17 the first time I got shot, and I went and I knocked on a door because my friends had get the money that was owed them, and they were going to come into the back door, and dude came out with a sawed-off shotgun, and I sprint, and I caught 3 pellets in my left butt cheek. And then I moved out early because like I had some extra money. I had a job, which covered for like all the excess money that I was spending cash wise. So nobody was really the wiser. And anytime I had to take a drug test, like I was still on painkillers because I I was in a lot of pain all the time. I was on amitriptyline. I was on, yeah. So it showed up. I had an excuse. And anyway, moving out wasn't exactly the best thing. And when I was 18, I caught 380 in the shoulder off a ricochet. And instead of going to the doctor like a responsible person should, my roommate dug it out with a butter knife. And there was obviously some drugs and alcohol involved when that went down. And good thing it was a ricochet because it wasn't in too deep. But still, like this whole time, I was working with my mom at a nursing home. Weren't working the same shift except for weekends, but she was so busy wrapped like it being understaffed, you didn't see a lot of things. And then if I was ever UA'd, like I had the excuse, I was on painkillers. Anyway, at one point I woke up in a bathtub, and this is like the first time I started thinking about getting clean. I woke up in a bathtub and I'd been in it for 3 days. I was just out of it. My roommate and his girlfriend were standing over me and they're like, "Hey, you need rehab." And I was like, "No, I don't." And I was like, I'll stop doing H, man. It's all right. So unfortunately, I went from downers to uppers. And then Yeah, there was just it's a long time. Like I had a family, I had kids, I had gotten married. I'm not gonna speak on anything my ex-wife did, but she was right there while I was using, you know? Like that's essentially what tore us apart. That and we weren't centered with God. Like it wasn't a cord of three strands. It was just me and her versus the world, which is a good feeling until it's not. And like the drugs, like they feel great till they don't, and then they're horrible, you know? And so I started wilding out, and my ex-wife was telling me that, "Hey, you need to slow down. You're doing too much." And I didn't. I didn't. And I uprooted our whole family, moved us to another town. Was working at a co-owner of a construction company, and cops came over to my house a few times about some of my employees. I never expected them to come after me, but then I bought a guitar from someone, and my ex-wife was pretty mad about it. So I took it down to Bob's Guitars in our local guitar place, and I sold it to them, and it was a pretty expensive guitar, and I sold it to him for what I paid for it, and to find out it was stolen, so we got raided, and, like, that it should have been a great wake-up call. I had 45 years over my head. I was on the front page of a lot of papers, like local house out with guns and drugs, and they weren't lying, like, it was me, and so I had a lot of time over my head, and so I wasn't gonna make my ex-wife wait, so I divorced her, and then God sticks his fingers in it, and, I get to sentencing after I pled guilty to all this stuff, because like, I can't deny it, like, I'm caught red-handed, I took you guys straight to the stuff. Anyway, I get into the sentencing, and the judge says 6 months in the halfway house or until max benefits are received, and I'm like, "What?" Like, that's I should have gotten 45 years, like, I'm not gonna unfortunately, those 45 years, and I had just totally changed my entire life around. I, at that point, had 4 kids, and, had signed pretty much overall custody, everything like that, because I was going away, I was prepped for it, and then it didn't just that was a God move, that should have been my wake-up call, but I'm hard-headed. It takes me a little bit. So I ended up in the halfway house in Marshalltown, and, I don't know if the listeners know about Marshalltown, but that's probably the wrong place to go if you're into what I was into. And I met all the right people at all the wrong times, or all the wrong people at all the right times, I guess. I got released, and I was in the thick of it again. And I I always lived up to the honor code. Like I really do like Old Testament laws. Like I mean, it's Bushido if you want to call it that. If you're samurai, Spartan, do everything with honor. Help. And then yeah, I ended up having another kid, and with my Sully sister, and that didn't work out, and that I wasn't ready for, that breakup. I called my mom, my poor mom, like 3 in the morning, and that was the first time I felt the lowest, like, that was an all new low because I wasn't expecting it. With my ex-wife, I knew it was coming because I was getting sent away, I was doing the right thing for her, but this one, it was just I had changed so much because we had met when I was clean while I was in the facility, and then I'd gotten back into it, and my demeanor changed, like, she couldn't live with that, I don't blame her. But then that's when I just spiraled out of control. I still had a job, I was still supervisor at the local pork plant, stuff like that, but I was wilding out bad, and that's when I met my current wife. Our meeting was in active addiction, and she was kinda my match on things. Like, we ended up our first date was we went on a cross country trip together and kept whiling out. I remember we were up in Mason City one time, another city local, oh, kinda close to us, and she was asking me about my kids, like why I'm not putting more time with them, and my mom had seen me falling, so she was keeping away from me, and I used to be so angry about it. That's another blessing. I mean, that's her and God did that, because I was bad off. And if those kids would have seen me like I was, I don't think I would have the relationship I have with them today. And so like she's like, why do you keep worrying about all these druggies and stuff like that instead of your kids? And I was like, because I was raised to help everybody. And she's like, well, that's not gonna matter in the end, like, and I was like, yeah, but these people had somebody do something nice for them. And that's spiritual warfare. Like I thought I was doing the right thing by these people. Like I was helping everybody out, which but I was helping him in the wrong ways, and I wasn't even thinking straight back then. But then, like I said, the last time I got shot, unfortunately, it's in a drug deal, and I was just trying to buy a big amount of drugs and had a lot of money on me, and there was some back history there that don't really matter. It's just dumb stuff, but, I caught 2 to the chest from, like, 10 yards, and then he came and put the gun point blank to my head and pulled the trigger, and it was a 45 ACP, and I headbutted it. Like, there was some choice profanity exchange between us, and God said, "Not yet." And I mean, a couple of years before that, I had had a heart attack because I was always amped up all the time. They cut a tumor out of my hand, so I've had a stroke, cancer, heart attack. I've been shot 5 times, stabbed twice. Like, God's like, not yet. He must have a big plan that, yeah, I don't know. I'm still working on that with him, but yeah. And I remember the powder flash, and I remember hearing the guy that shot me run away, and it I called, like, Tisha called me, my current wife called me, and I was like, "Hey, I've just been shot. I need to call 911." And she's like, "You don't sound like you've been shot." And I don't there's this weird piece. Like, I had been in active addiction for so long that I was done living. I was done feeling like it, but I was too gutless to take my own life. So I was in suicidal situations, and I knew it. Like, I wasn't gonna do it, but I knew somebody eventually would. It was with the amounts of everything floating around, someone was gonna let me get to my maker. And I remember calling 911 and they asked me who shot me. I was like, I ain't dying like that. Like, I'm gonna die here, lady. I'm just letting you know where my body is. Here's the deal. The guy took me to a beautiful area. Like, there was 2 ponds, there was a meadow, a forest line. If I were to and a full moon on Cinco de Mayo, it was the 5th of May. It was beautiful. And I told the lady on the phone that I was like, this is the best place I could have to die, and I'm just letting you know where to find the body. And she's like, "What do you have?" And anyway, I was on the phone with 911 for 50 minutes because, like I said, there was a pond and there's no road to where I was going. It was just an easement. And they had me standing up and waving my phone with the flashlight on so they could see me. They got an inflatable raft across the pond to get to me. Like, it was quite the ordeal, and I had lost a lot of blood. So my lung had collapsed because one of the rounds that went into my chest is now in between my aorta and my heart, so it's not removed. Another round is in my shoulder, and if I ever meet any of these folks in person, like you felt it, I've got the Grand Canyon on my forehead. But like I said, God said not yet. And like, I had gotten out of the hospital after a couple weeks, and me and Tisha had talked, like, this was the catalyst that started getting us towards clean, man. Like, this traumatic experience was like, whoa, hold up, dude. There's got to be something more to life than this. And then 30 days after I'd gotten shot, 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, I was federally indicted on a gun charge. And the gun wasn't in my possession, but it was found at somebody's house, and, that dude was on his 3rd set of kidneys. He was a close friend for a long time in my life, and so I went in and I said, "Hey, that I had that gun brought to his house, and I thought I had played all my cards right, and I just forgot it that night, and, yeah, I got a stolen gun charge that they turned over Fed." And so when I got there, I did all the Fed time or whatever, and I hate to say this, like, yes, I had gotten shot, and that was the catalyst towards getting clean. Federal prison's wide open, and you can get anything you want in there for street prices. And so I was still using. Like, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And then my clean date officially is January 2nd, 2022. I partied super hard on New Year's Eve, and then the next day woke up, my tooth was hurting, and I was like, "Man, I got a tooth infection." Went to the infirmary, and they're like, "No, you have COVID." She just went to the SHU, the segregated housing unit, went to the SHU and spent my birthday in the SHU, laid there in a cold cell. I don't I don't remember, like, pleading with God for anything, really. I was just asking what his plan was. I was just thankful, and I was so scared of coming out. And, like, I'm not scared of death, but I'm scared of active addiction nowadays. Like, I don't ever wanna feel soulless again, you know? So I have a great godly woman, thank God. Oh, I'm so blessed. But the whole time I was in prison, she had gotten involved with a 12-step program, and had built us a whole new community. So when I came out, there was no having to no loneliness at all, really. Like there was church at Harvest, there was picnic in the park, one of the Harvest events. I had a job, I had a whole 12-step program family. I mean, it's a secular one, but I love all of them, but after about 2, 3 years of recovery and working on myself and reading these books that talk about a higher power and all this, I'm like, the 12 steps, the gratitude, the principles. I'm like, this is all biblical, you guys. Like, this is Jesus's first bit, like, because I had all that head knowledge, like this is Jesus' first big sermon, like this is Jesus. You can say higher power if you want to, and I get it, cool, whatever. But this is God, this is Jesus, guys. It was just the same thing I saw in like the church, like there was just a lot of hypocrisy but they weren't shooting their wounded. Like somebody went back out, like there was good thoughts sent to them. If they needed help getting clean again, they were all right there. And then someone invited us to this meeting for Celebrate Recovery. And it is just, I don't know, it's amazing. Like I don't know, like I feel so led. I absolutely love our Celebrate Recovery group. I love all of them. Like I've gone to ones in different cities, different towns, stuff like that. All of them are amazing. It's not about what you've done. It's not about how the world sees you. It's about how God sees you, and everybody's welcome, and you don't have to be a drug addict. I mean, everybody's got hurts, hangups, and habits. And from there, man, we did the 12 steps with this group of gentlemen that is probably some of the strongest men I've ever met. And the transformations that I've seen, one of them, I didn't even hear talk for the first 12 weeks. Like I didn't even know he spoke, and now he leads prayer in front of the group. He does the small groups. Like this man, just the power of Jesus is just phenomenal. And the hardest part for me is like, I can't tell you exactly when that head knowledge became heart knowledge, because I used to get real hung up on doctrine and, and other people's sin, like I saw a lot of sinners judging sinners for sinning differently. And I don't know, like I got in the Bible every day. Like I made a conscious effort. Like I listen to it before I fall asleep. I got the audio Bible. I read it. I study it. Like I put like 29 hours into Genesis a couple months ago and I dig it. Like it's more and more impactful. That head knowledge, when I let it touch my heart, I don't think I could ever go back. There's that feeling that I had gotten when I had got saved, if you want to call it that, like saved, redeemed. When me and Jesus got the agreement that we were going to have a relationship, that feeling that I had in my soul that I then, when I saw the hypocrisy of the church, if you will, or people failing people, but not Jesus failing. When I saw that, I found a glimpse of that feeling in drugs, but then it was taken right away. Like it's a devil's sick joke, dude. Like, oh, you want to feel that mountaintop? Well, here, you'll feel it for 2 seconds. It's not enough, man. And like the more, I don't know, I was trying to figure out the average of how much I talk to Jesus on a daily basis. And a few months ago, I was above 4 hours a day in prayer. And like, I'm talking to Jesus though. Like we have a relationship, like the thing that scares me is I don't want to get to heaven and be like, I have not known you. Yeah, bro, you have. And I've known you because I also sit in stillness, like I meditate. I let the Spirit speak to me. I let him lead me. And I got some anger issues once in a while about how interpretations of the Bible happen. So like I started getting into the Greek and the Hebrew and finding out who Jesus was talking to. And I was going to start seminary to just to argue with people that were leading people astray. But I was like, I don't want to be a leader because they're held to a different standard. And then this wonderful man named Jim, I'm over at his house and we're talking about it today. And one day, and I'm sitting there talking to him. And I was like, I am a crappy sinner, like I can't be in leadership because what if I say something wrong? I'm leading people astray. And he just looked at me and he's like, you're already in leadership. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you're on the leadership team for CR. You do picnic in the park. Like you're already in leadership. And I was like, oh crap. Like I am already there. Like, man, I'm already being held to this standard that I was trying to avoid. I was trying to run from him. And like, that's part of God's plan. And as much as I want to disagree with him, I'm not. Like every time I try to disagree with Jesus, he just shows me another way. And so I wanted to start seminary for selfish reasons to argue with, I hate to say it, uppity Christians. Like I don't know a better terminology for it. Like that's originally why I wanted to start. And then I was like, Mike, that's the wrong reasons. Don't do that. So I just keep studying the Bible, right? And one day I'm sitting in one of our 12-step meetings and our group meeting, and someone, I love him, looks at me and he's like, "You're gonna do wonderful for the kingdom." And I'm like, I'm gonna do my best. I hope that's wonderful. And he's like, "I'm gonna pay for your first semester of seminary. I'm gonna sponsor you." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "You ain't gotta do that." And he's like, "No, I am. I am. I want to be involved with where you start." And so now my seminary isn't necessarily to argue with people. I do want the knowledge, but then there has been some talk about possibly leading at the church I go to because our pastors want to retire. And I don't know. Like I'm excited about seminary because of how much I get to learn, because there are so many nuances and things that you don't get in the evangelical church, I guess. Like, I like the things that are dirty too, the things that aren't pleasant to hear, but you can't stray away from them. I'm not going to condemn you for the sin that you're doing, but I will let you know what the Bible says. And the Bible doesn't say anything against that. No, because there's so many things to say are wrong. Jesus just told you what was right, and that's what you shoot for. Yeah, it makes it easy, And so I am really excited about the next chapter in our life. Me and my wife got married in September. We moved in together now officially. I think it was November 1st. And we moved to the apartment she lived in when I first got out of prison, except she was on the ground floor. But we have a view of Cedar River, the downtown Waterloo West Side, which looks beautiful at night from our porch. We're on the second floor, so we can see all this. My youngest daughter, loves it. Ever since I got out, I had a strained relationship with my mom because of active addiction and aggression that happened, and with my kids because they were told right. I did choose drugs over them, like I did, but thank God for my mom and keeping them away from me and stuff like that. That has done so much more good and I was upset for a long time about it, but I've worked through it and realized that was the best thing. And now my oldest daughter just had a baby. I was there for it. Couldn't believe, she even stayed with me for a while when she was in between apartments. My next two daughters that are going to college, I talk to one of them almost every day. Like we're Snapchatting each other every day. The other one I talk to quite often, and I have been helping her with some business ventures, like helping her out. And that I love. My son, he's got some issues because he's had some trauma in his life too, even without me being around. Him and me talk quite a bit too, or 2-3 times a week. He's 14 now. My 8-year-old is here every other weekend and some holidays, and we go down to see her concerts and watch her games. She lives in Ames, which is a 2-hour drive, but totally worth it, man. I never expected to have a relationship. When I first got out, my youngest daughter's mom had told me, she's like, you're never going to have her at your house as long as you live in Waterloo. And it's just not going to happen. But she told me about 6 months later, she's like, you really have changed. And I was like, I'm just trying to do the next right thing, and it pain to me or not, I'm going to do the next right thing. And now, she has her own bedroom at our house, and she is married to a wonderful man. I could have not asked for a better stepdad for my daughter. She is just phenomenal. The Lord has blessed me in so many of the weirdest ways. Got me alive. That's a blessing. That's not necessarily a weird way. But and another crazy thing with being shot in the head, there was 4 years after I got shot in the head that I never had a headache. Not once. Everybody gets headaches, stress headaches, tension, whatever. I didn't get a headache. And I was like kind of a blessing, I've had a couple headaches, in the last year or so, but not. I used to suffer from migraines after all the concussions and stuff. Haven't had one. I'm not recommending getting shot in the head by no means, but it relieved some pressure for me. So that was definitely a God. So yeah, I don't know. Everything is just, I don't understand it. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm super grateful that God keeps just blessing me, man. And it's crazy, but I had to open myself up for it. I had to open myself up for the blessings. I had to allow myself to receive them because I had a lot of resentment against me, for all the crap I did. I had a lot of bad feelings towards me, I guess. And my mom had told me this story about when she found out she was pregnant with me, and she was real tore up about it because she was a single mom, and tried to talk to the pastor of the church she went to, and he had no time for her. Like, you're living in sin, you got proof coming. And my mom was begging God for forgiveness just over and over again. And my uncle, who was a military chaplain, told her, he's like, God's already forgave you. You just got to forgive yourself. And that's the hardest part. Like, the devil keeps us in that lie. Like, you're not good enough. God can't love you. Like, you've done too much wrong. Yeah, I have. But that mess turned into a message. And there are people out there that will go and try to help addicts and unhoused folks, but have never been there themselves. And knowing that side of the spectrum, like knowing being unhoused and homeless, knowing being an addict and out of my gourd, like I saw people come to me trying to help that have no idea where I'm coming from. Like, I'm not listening to you. You have no idea. It's like people that don't have kids trying to tell you how to raise yours. Like, are you serious? But I think God got me here so that I can help those. Like there's quite a few unhoused people that go to our church, and that there's all different walks of life, all different political beliefs. And it's a small congregation. Everybody knows everybody, but everybody doesn't care what your sins are. Like, they just love. Like, they read what Jesus said. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart is the first and greatest of the commands, followed by love your neighbor as you love yourself. The hard part is our world and Satan conditions us not to like ourselves, not to love
Man,
ourselves. So when
man,
it comes to loving somebody else, like, if you don't love you, you can't love them. You know? That's just where I sit nowadays. I mean, I won't rant, man. I'm down to have a conversation with you. But yeah, like,
man,
it's hard.
that's some good stuff, man. If it's not clear why I asked you to be on the show today to the listeners, I don't know what's gonna take. The story that you
I don't
just
know.
shared with us and your history, and you just have such a powerful testimony about overcoming things that other people would let keep them down, and just not letting it keep you down, but truly becoming unmasked and saying, hey, yeah, you know what, this was me, but that's the old me, that's not who I am now, and not letting it define who you are today. So, man, if quick pause, if this is something, listeners, if this is something in this, quick pause. If something in this first part of this episode is already speaking to you, would you take a moment and just share it with somebody who needs to hear it? Seriously, it's how conversations like this get out in front of people who feel alone and need to hear the hope, that there is hope on the other side of whatever it is they're going through.
Whole
So
bunch of it.
take a moment, share it with somebody else. Okay. Well, let's get back into it, because I have some questions for this man that I'm excited to hear how he responds to.
Oh no. I don't know about all this. No.
Mike, you've talked openly about the differences between head knowledge and heart knowledge, and especially when it comes to faith. Can you describe a moment when your faith finally moved from your head to your heart, and how did that change the way that you live?
Man, I think it was like trickles into the heart. Like, I mean, obviously your head is above your heart, and it was trickling in. I think honestly, in federal prison is when it started clicking. Like, things started clicking. My best friend in federal prison is, honest to God, Hebrew. Like, his last name is full Hebrew. It's got the in it and all that. And talk about Torah and understanding the Bible and everything like that, and all the little nuances behind the Old Testament. And then when we started talking about it, and he's a messianic Hebrew, I guess, because he believes in Jesus. And we were sitting there talking. He's got 25 years that he's doing, but all I don't know. It just started sinking in. Like, and then I came out, and he's telling me, like, the world is going to be different for you now. You have seen what people consider rock bottom. He's like, you have now been locked up for 3 years. He's like, you're going to go out and the world is going to look different to you. He's like, all these conversations we've had, all this praying we've done, like all this working out that we've done together with all these conversations. He's like, you're going to see it. And then I came out and I was super scared to begin with, because active addiction had scared me. And then I got out here, and Tish had that ready-made family, and I went to the first First time I went to Harvest Vineyard, and it just started hitting me. Like, I you know what? When the spirit hits, you just start crying, and you're not sad, you're thrilled, you're happy, you just the Niagara Falls that came down my face. And then I was like, "Man, if it's gonna make me feel like this for just being a little bit involved, I wanna be a lot of bit involved." You know? And then got into the Bible, the reading, the praying on what I was reading about. Instead of just reading it, memorizing the facts, like 12 tribes, 104, like all that. Yeah, those numbers are important, and they are. But why were they arranged like they were, around the tabernacle? And if you actually break down what the Bible says, I think it's in Deuteronomy. If you break down how the tribes were laid out around the tabernacle, it's a cross. In the desert, in the wilderness, they were already prepped for the God was already planning all of this. Like, just there ain't nothing I have done that God didn't know about before I was born. There ain't nothing I'm gonna do. And that makes me, I don't know, just want to chase him more. Like if a God that is so infinite and beyond what I can comprehend, like I can't put God in a box. Like I can't tell you how God, like I can tell you what Jesus says about the right way, but like whatever you've done or whatever, like it doesn't matter. I can't say anything on it because I can't put God in a box. Like I can't like, I have friends that are gay, openly homosexual. That's fine with me. That's your life, not mine. But I'm going to love you like Jesus told me to. Like it doesn't like there's this one gentleman that is and he's like, "What do you mean you're a Christian?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. There's a difference." And he's like, "Okay." And I think that's when it clicked. He's like, I would have never expected that. You don't condemn me for anything." And I was like, "Why would I? That's not my job. Like I'm here to fix your toilet because you're my friend, bud. Like I love you, man. Like your private life is your private life." And when I detached myself from other people's sin, like, my heart, I don't know, it just changed things. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I cry so much nowadays, but it's not tears of sadness or regret or anything, it's gratitude. It's the gratitude that grabbed me, and in that, just being thankful for what I have. Like, I don't want more. I don't wanna make that next sale. I don't wanna get that next amount. I don't have to look over my shoulder. I can go on vacation and my house don't get robbed. It's crazy. I'm just so grateful for the little things. There's food in the cabinet behind me and in the fridge. I'm drinking coffee, not instant from prison. It's great. Like I'm just so thankful. I don't know. God has just trickled through all of my core, like the soul, the pineal gland, whatever it is, the dopamines that I get from reading the Bible and learning more about the views of Jesus and God, the dopamines and serotonins that flow are better than when I was on drugs, even in the good times. There's just, it's so, I don't know, refreshing. I don't, it's just, I don't know how to describe, but I know that it's trickled to my heart because I feel it in my core. When I see somebody I don't like, I feel compassion. I pray for them. When I see people that are literally being what the world views as a judgy Christian, you know, like DC Talk said it in one of their albums. I think it was the Jesus Freak album. They said, "You know what? The single cause of atheism in the world today, it's Christians who acknowledge it with their mouth and then walk out the door and get on and live with their lifestyle. That's what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable." Like we are called to stand apart. We are called to love. Period. Not judge. Yes, we can be involved. There are political things. There's spiritual warfare going on that we need to be a part of. Like, hey, this is why it's not right because this is how you're going to feel at the end of it. I know because I've been there. I know what soulless feels like, and now that I don't feel like that anymore, like my heart is just exploding. I don't know how to describe it. I love everybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Man,
I love it.
I just love hearing you talk and share your story. And if you're listening to this podcast today and you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or one of those audio only locations, man, I encourage you, come join us on YouTube and find this episode on YouTube, because hearing Mike share his testimony is one thing and hearing him talk is one thing. But when you can just see, when you see the excitement in this guy's face as he's talking and sharing, it levels it up to a whole nother level. So find us on YouTube and watch it there, and I guarantee you won't regret it. Mike,
I appreciate that.
Mike, as you've survived multiple life-threatening things. I mean, you mentioned being shot multiple times, car accidents, addiction, violence, stuff that most people wouldn't even dream about going through. I mean,
No,
being
I
shot
hope
and
not.
left for dead in this meadow, like just stuff that, I mean, it's just unfathomable to even to think about, and yet you're sitting here today with me sharing.
Well, that's all God, not me,
It's
man.
just,
That's all God.
yeah, I won't argue that point at all. But
Appreciate that.
how did those moments shape your understanding of purpose and God's calling on your life today?
Man, I was so confused to begin with. You know what I'm saying? How am I making it through all of this? And there's heartache that goes with it too. Like I said, when my youngest daughter's mom left me, there was a lot of pain with that. No, it's for his purpose. I think that's where everything boils down to. As much as I tried to do things on my own and strayed away from God and Jesus and strayed away from the love and the grace and the mercy, as much as I tried to run away from it because of people failing, not them, not God, like it's God all. He is using it all. Like my purpose now it's just to love people where they're at, to help them out where I can. After Celebrate Recovery, when there's food left over, we go to the unhoused and make sure they're fed. Tisha sometimes gets mad at me. My purpose is to love somebody standing outside the liquor store where I get my cigarettes. They're like, "Hey, do you got $1?" No, but I got a 20. Here you go. And she's like, "They're just gonna spend that." And then she used to say, "They're just gonna spend that on drugs and liquor." And I was like, maybe. But it's not my job to figure out what they spend their money on. I'm just supposed to bring the loaves and the fish, Like it ain't my job to multiply it. And then so God and all of this amazingness. So one day this dude's outside and he's like, "Hey, do you have $1?" And I'm thinking he's just gonna get a Swisher Sweet or something like that. I don't care. And I was like, "I only got plastic. Hold on." I went inside, I got a 20 out of the ATM. I hand him the 20. And I watched him walk straight over to the little restaurant across the street, not go inside and buy a bottle, walked straight over to the restaurant across the street and got some food. And like I'd start letting her get into my head about that. Like you're just feeding their habits. You're just, which people did for me too. But when that man walked to that restaurant and got food, I'm assuming like he went to the restaurant, not the liquor store. That was God telling me, is like, you just keep doing what you're doing, Mike. You just keep loving people. Like you got $1, you got a 10, give them a 10. Like I am blessed enough that I'm bill paid broke. So when I've got extra, it's everybody's. It ain't mine. God helped me earn it. God points me to spending it. And I still get a little selfish once in a while. I'll buy a guitar. Don't get me wrong. I still love playing guitar. But honestly, yeah, I got everything I need. Everything. And so yeah, my purpose is just to show you that you're loved. And the only reason I can show you that you're loved is because I'm loved. Like beyond anything you can do, you're loved. And that
Man,
yeah, that's my purpose, is just to show people love.
you mentioned earlier, you talked about your recovery, and you were part of a secular recovery group, and now you're part of Celebrate Recovery. And it's clear that
Uh-huh.
recovery and Celebrate Recovery has played a significant role in your life and in your transformation. What's different about CR or Celebrate Recovery? What's different about that compared to other recovery environments that you've been a part of and experienced? And why does that difference resonate with you so deeply?
Because I had that head knowledge, man. I knew what the Bible said. I knew the sermon. So I had all that head knowledge, of the Bible, the Sermon on the Mount, like I said, the facts and the figures, like go through all of Matthew, blessed are the, blessed, all the beatitudes really, you know? And then I get to the secular recovery and I look at the 12 steps and it's talking about spiritual experiences and, making amends and admitting that there's a higher power of your understanding. And I was like, well, hold up a second. That's where I started to draw a line. First step, like, yes, I'm powerless over it. So we get to the third step and higher power of your understanding. A loving God is he or she represents itself. And I'm like, what? Of my understanding? Like if I'm calling it God, I can't understand it. I can't put God in a box. And I started getting these like feelings like, yes, I love the camaraderie. I love that everybody had come out of the addiction, like, and that they were trying to be better people. But then the more you get to it, like step 10, you're talking about like making a moral and fearless inventory. And when you're wrong, promptly admitting it. And it's like, yeah, these are all Christian principles, you guys. And they're like, you can't say that. Yeah, I can. Like, I can tell you what, and I would share in meetings because that's what helps. If you keep stuff inside, like, and I would share in meetings, but I always felt like I had to watch what I said because, like, I couldn't say that I see God moving in my life. I could say God, but they know yeah, I can't hide that it's Jesus. Like, as much as I try to not walk on eggshells and not hurt anybody, I'm gonna say God and Jesus. Like Jesus saved me. Like I can't not say it. But I was seeing people choose like doorknobs as their higher power or chairs. And I'm like, you can understand everything about that chair, You can understand everything about doorknobs and locks. Like, read a couple books and I'm pretty sure you got it figured out. The whole history of them. And that it just doesn't resonate with me. Like the higher power, I understand it can be whatever you want, but you can't understand it. You can't know everything about it because then it's not a higher power anymore because now you know everything about it, but it don't know everything about you. And I will never in my life, as much as I read and as much as I study and as much as I listen to, I will never understand God. His plan, his ways are not my ways, and I'm totally cool with that because his way's better. you know, it's I don't know, like so I just I couldn't do it. Like I would still go to the meetings because I was a chair of a meeting and everything like that. And they do help people stay clean. I admit, like getting the stuff out there, like sharing is a big part of the recovery process because it's a new way to think. It's a new way to live, and you can only keep what you have by giving it away. That's one of the things in the secular 12 step that is absolutely correct. And we don't necessarily say that in Celebrate Recovery. It's a requirement. Like you've got to love on people. You're giving it away. You're giving the love that you wish you always had. Especially an active addiction that you never had that you thought you did, but it's because you had the fat sack or whatever. It wasn't real love. And you come in with nothing to Celebrate Recovery. And it's not higher power. It's the one true God, the God of the angel armies. Like it's definitely the one that made all of this, and people like talk about like, because the issue in the secular recovery is like, if God was real, like you're saying, he wouldn't let this happen. Yeah, he would, because now your mess is a message. It's a testimony. Like where you failed is now going to help somebody else. Like this is all Jesus's plan. Like he had the perfect plan for you, but then you made your own decisions, like free will. And I appreciate that. And like the amount of like, if you force somebody to do something for you, like slave labor, they're not going to do their greatest job, like, because they don't want to be there. They're forced to be there. So I understand the free will thing because now that when I want to do something for Jesus, I want to do something for the kingdom. And so now when I do something for the kingdom, it is 110%. Like if I was being forced to do it, I'd give it a solid 40%, but now that I want to do it, and that's why I think God created free will or allowed us to have free will because it's so much more powerful than slave labor, I guess. I mean, slaves, and that's where the power is. It's not necessarily that you're doing a lot or a little. You could be the guy that cleans the toilets at the church. It doesn't matter. It's still got to get done. Everybody gets to play. Like you are serving in a major purpose. Like those toilets being clean is stopping somebody from getting sick. It's giving somebody a clean toilet to use because where they live, where they're at, they may not have it. Everything is important in the kingdom. And so when you're doing it out of free will, not because you're made to, it's just so much more of a beautiful experience. It's so much more rewarding. There's so much more gratitude that goes with it. I mean, I know I kind of got a little off tangent, but it is, man. I don't know. I'm excited about life. Every day
Yeah,
gets better. And I've been waiting for the first, when I was in secular recovery, I was waiting for the buck to drop. I was waiting for something to go horribly wrong. And I'm not saying things didn't, but I don't look at them the same. Like I'm grateful that I got the experience. Now, if somebody comes to me with something like that, now I can help them because I've been there, man. And I'm not upset about it. It's all God's plan, not mine.
Yeah, I talk about Celebrate Recovery quite often in my podcast and when I'm a guest on other podcasts, because there's just something different about the ministry. And for those that are listening, if you haven't heard me talk about it, well, then go back and listen to other episodes because you'll hear more about it. There's a reason that I talk about it so lovingly, and Mike talks about it so lovingly, because there is something different about it. And it doesn't matter what you're there for. It doesn't matter if it's a porn addiction, if it's a drug addiction, if it's alcohol, if it's overeating, if it's a body image, if it's a broken relationship. It doesn't matter. I have people quite often ask me, am I qualified to go? Can I go? I don't deal with anything major. And I look at them and I'm like, you know what? If you're alive and breathing and you're a human being, you're qualified to go, because only 1 in 3 people that go to Celebrate Recovery are there for something like drugs or alcohol. The rest of us are there for life issues. It doesn't matter what the life issue is. There's something there that you need to work through. And well, they're like, and so then I often get, well, there's not one near me. And I said, and I tell them, I say, this is a global ministry. I guarantee there's probably one within driving distance of you in some way, shape, or form. So if that's you today and you're listening and you are like, I want to find out more about this, go out to crlocator.com and you can find a meeting near you. It has all the information, who to contact if you have questions about their meeting. And this podcast is in no way, shape, or form sponsored by Celebrate Recovery, but it's given me a life change. It's given Mike life change. Through Christ. We don't give credit to the program. The program was a catalyst. It was Christ that did the change. But check it out. I guarantee you will not regret it. Mike, the last question for you tonight or today or whatever time you're listening to this podcast, for the person that's out there that still feels like they're stuck, they're stuck in shame, they're stuck in addiction, they have a sense of unworthiness. What is one piece of encouragement that you wish somebody had spoken into you and your lowest moments that you can leave the listeners with today?
Ooh, how about this? It does not matter. You have somebody right here that loves you. Doesn't matter what you did. Doesn't matter what you have done, what you're going to do, what you're living in. You're loved, period. And Jesus being number one that loves you. But I love you too. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters except Jesus. And I don't know how to get somebody wrapped around that, honestly. Like, you have to make a conscious effort in the beginning. Your first little bit is rough. And you got to make that conscious effort to read that Bible, to pray, to meditate. And then you make that conscious effort, even if you put in 5-10 minutes, you make that conscious effort. The first step is on you. But then after a while, like, you find yourself doing it automatically. You find yourself in constant dialogue with your maker, just chatting, sometimes just chatting it up, just because it feels good to talk to him. It feels good to listen. And then life gets even better. And you sit there and you're like, something's going to happen. And then something does happen, and it doesn't bother you because you've already been talking to Jesus. So you have everything you need. And I don't know, there's just too much that goes with it. Like, you make the first steps, and there's people that I know that are still in active addiction that, do you think I can do it, Mike? Yes, I absolutely do think you can do it. I had 22, 23 years in active addiction, solid, like pretty much, yeah, ever since I was 13 years old. And it's just, I find myself wishing I would have got cleaner sooner, because the life is so much better this way. But you've got to allow yourself to love you. Yes, there's a lot of things that you've done, that you've done to yourself, to others, that have happened to you, that have happened to others because of you. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. You've got to start loving yourself, because Jesus already loves you. And knowing that the master of the universe, the God that created all this, the God of the angel armies, he already loves you. You got to love yourself. And when you start loving yourself, it just makes it so much easier to accept Jesus' love. Just love you. Love Jesus, love you. In that order.
I love that, man. I couldn't say it any better myself. So, Mike, thank you so much for being with us today on Unmasked, and
thank you for having me.
Sharing your story, man. It's been awesome conversation, awesome time, and I'm sure the listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
It's always fun chatting with you, Wes, man. I love you, bro. I love you.
I love you too. Love you too, man. Well, thanks for joining me today on Unmasked, and a huge thanks to Mike for sharing his testimony so openly and honestly with us. If something in this episode spoke to you, don't let it stop with you. Share it with one person that God put on your heart while you were listening. You never know where the breakthrough might start with a simple message from you. If you want more encouragement or more information on me and having me speak at your church or events, visit wesleyfarnsworth.com. And make sure that you join the Unmasked community by connecting with me on social media so that we can walk this journey together. Until next time, remember that grace is greater than your past, and real freedom begins the moment that you choose to live unmasked. God bless you.